It is the 200 level. Well, if I had my brothers, I would have started with it's Tay and Carp on ESPN. It's been a while since we did that, but I'm happy to welcome on a old friend, a radio stalwart in East Central Illinois. No longer, maybe, and we'll talk about that briefly, but still someone whose voice I know a lot of people value, especially Illini fans, and that is Lon Tay. What's up, Lon?
Good morning, Carp. Yeah, I'm good, man. Thank you for having me on. I'm excited to talk Illinois football. This season is going to be one I think that we're going to remember, I hope, in a good way. But yeah, it feels good to get back on a platform again, man. It's been a month or so for me.
Yeah, which you were on Jeremy's podcast, and I know that was before you made your decision. I figure we just touch on that real quick because there's been an outpouring, let's call it, on Twitter. And I know you're not someone that – it's funny because you have a big personality clearly, but I'm also not surprised that you were not so like – hey, give me the flowers. I wasn't surprised by that. But with this decision to retire from the 5-day week at 93.5, what led into that? And I'll just kind of let you explain, because this would be the first time behind a mic you could do that.
Yeah, and I appreciate it, Carp. What a run, man. What a fun run. I heard the podcast with you and Jeremy, and it got me thinking. Thank you, by the way, to you and Jeremy for the kind words. It's amazing. Oh, and I heard the podcast with Trevor, too. I don't want Trevor to get upset, start texting me and saying, thanks, Lon. But no, I'm kidding. But I heard the kind words, and it's pretty amazing to me that run that we went on. And it was so easy to transfer from Jeremy to you to Derek. And it was just, I say this 100 times, and it's true. Like, I feel like I've got talent to do this. I don't know that I couldn't do it alone. And it had to be with the right people. And it's not that it wasn't going to be with the right people moving forward, but there were tendencies, right? Like you and Warner laughed about, like, how often was I actually there? And this last year, I took more time off with Andrew being a senior. I did not want to miss one event, and I didn't. And the more time off I took, it's like anything, the more I started to value that time off. And, it's nobody understands this because most people work from 8 to 5, let's say. So technically you're working from 3 to 5. But for me, every day to know that I had to be in a certain spot, 3 to 5. Now, did I love it? I had a hell of a time with it. I wouldn't trade that for the world. Never in my life, as much as I love the media, did I think I would have an impact on Central Illinois, which is a place that I've loved, and to talk Illinois sports especially, and then to get to know all of you guys. And you talked about the talent that came through that door with us. I mean, literally, my job was pretty damn easy, Carp. I just, hey, good morning. It's it's Tay and Jay. It's Tay and Carp. It's the drive with Pipes and Lon, and then I just let you guys go. And I think I've heard so many people say this, and it's very humbling to me, but I feel like I do have kind of a quality that kind of lets people relax and set in. And I think that's an important trait and an important talent. I didn't always know all the stats, this. I got to the point where I was watching Andrew's basketball games till 10, and Illinois played Michigan State, and I maybe got a chance to watch 5 minutes of YouTube highlights and then go on the air for 3 hours or 2 hours. And it's like, that's not fair to everybody. So it just got to that point where I was slowly kind of moving away from it. And when Piper made the announcement, when he kind of threw that out at me at the studio one day, I was like, wow, because I literally had already talked myself essentially into stepping aside because I thought it was in great hands with Kyle and Derek. I thought, man, what a perfect way for this show to continue with those two very talented guys. And so,
that's probably my computer.
That's probably them saying that's enough on the question. Is this like the presidential debate? I get so much time. But no, I just thought, look, they're in great hands. I'll stick around. Like if Kyle is, on summer or Christmas break, I'll come back and do the show with Derek. Or if Pipes is in New York for Illinois basketball, I'll go do the show with Kyle. So I had already kind of told myself, hang on in that role until spring when Andrew's baseball schedule really gets crazy, like 70 games. And I said, at that point, it's not fair to anybody that you're coming on, Monday, you're gone Tuesday, Wednesday, you're back Thursday, you're gone Friday. I mean, nobody wants that. So that's kind of made, I just had slowly gotten to the point that I was like, it's good enough, man. It's been a great run. And I don't need any more of it necessarily to satisfy myself, but I'm damn proud that we did it. And the responses that I've gotten from everybody on Twitter, via text. I mean, Drew Dickinson, our guy, former Illinois pitching coach, reached out to me the other day and just said, "Hey, congratulations on a great run. I always enjoyed coming on the show with you." And, I heard from, guys like Mike Small and just different people that it means the world to you, and to know that they listened on occasion and had a good time with you. And to me, it values it, right? It makes it, you feel like you had value with it. But yeah, I'm excited now not to do it, which is crazy. I want to get into the podcast a little bit down the road. I'd like to do that. I'd love to still be heard a little bit, but I just don't need the everyday grind anymore. But man, did I love it, Carp, for 15 years.
I mean, that's just it. Media is naturally a transient profession. You rarely stay one place that much. And a lot of people, after a certain amount of time, and I talked to Breitweiser about this, eventually a fatigue sets in. I was talking to Jeremy, and I know you listened to that podcast, and he talked about how he doesn't have that yet. He still loves every bit of it. And you got to have that, I would assume. And I know that what the radio was a smaller scale than that, but I'd be lying if I didn't say that there were some summer radio shows that we do when it was still the 3-hour thing.
Ugh.
And even when we got it down to 2, where it'd be the dregs of baseball season, and we're just like, what can we possibly talk about? So I will be interested in what your next move is. I know podcasting is a natural thing. And you made a good point, though. The texts and things you got, I mean, I'm sure I get on a smaller scale than you were in Lot 31. There'll be maybe 4 or 5 people at any tailgate like Carp, and whether it's they see the flag or whatever, and they come say hi. And I'm sure you get that tenfold. But the importance and why I love radio and podcasting by extension is that there is an intimacy where you get to know, or feel like you get to know, the person behind the microphone. And heck, today, my favorite Chicago personality, love him, hate him, I do both in equal measure, was Dan Bernstein.
Yep.
And he had been off the air for 6 months because he did something stupid on Twitter, and he has a podcast now. And I cannot tell you how my lunch hour hit. I'm like, oh, right. His podcast started today. So I would imagine the same thing whenever you launch something, whether it's podcast or another venture, would be greeted with the same response.
I think so too. And I feel like I've got a lot to say still about Illinois sports. And I always felt like I had kind of a unique angle at Illinois sports because I'm just like everybody else. I never really considered myself. I did when I worked in television, but when I started doing that radio show, I didn't consider myself being a media member. I mean, I never went to press conferences. Hell, I don't even go to the basketball games. I like watching those here at my tiny house in Philo, but I do go to the football games. That. I love doing that. And, Andrew always went with me to these games, but now I don't have Andrew or Lucas here to go with me. So now I kind of feel like this old broken down man that has no friend.
You're a king in front of our very eyes. You're just, look at you. Hey, you're aging well, man. I mean, truth be told, and you don't need to say what your age is. I know you're not too proud to tell us, but I mean, you're doing fine.
Well, thank you. Yeah, just in fact, if I look disheveled here, I just went on a walk. So I took a quick shower, filled up the Hooters cup with a couple.
There it is.
And, I got to reward myself for the walk.
Hey, Hooters is coming back. There was a news story I read. They were not rebranding, but they said they're going to bring the Hooter back into Hooters, which seems right up your alley, and not just yours, many. And in the third of Sydney Sweeney, and it's having a comeback, Lon. It's having a comeback.
This is like the littlest known fact about me, but it's so true. I never have been to a Hooters one time that I was there for the women. I was never there. I love the Hooters food. I love the wings. In fact, Lucas just changed jobs, and he was working in Davenport for a week, Iowa, for training in the logistics stuff. And there was a Hooters in Moline, and I'm like, dude, you better bring me home about 30 wings from Hooters. I just love their food. And if Sydney Sweeney was my waitress, that'd be all right, I guess. But
Lon, I got to say that argument, though, sounds a little bit like someone who reads Playboy for the articles.
right.
I go to Hooters for the food. I mean, I'll take your word for it, but
my dad always carried a Playboy. If you know Villa Grove,
mm-hmm.
There's trains all the time, and you're going to get stuck by a train at least once a day. Dad always carried a Playboy in the truck for the article, is what he said. He's like, no, I read these at the train stop.
That is awesome. That is a Tay if I ever heard one.
Hey, man.
Now, I'm excited to have you here because, we had so many years where, as Jeremy dubbed it, or maybe the two of you in equal measure, Operation Prolong Relevancy, where we just try to get into mid-October and still maybe have decent football to talk about, and rarely was that the case. So it is a unique position to be talking to you on the eve, or I guess 4 days before it, of a season with as much expectations. I could go back to 2008.
Yeah.
But they were, I think, ranked around 20, 21. People knew that without Rashard and Jay Lehman and the safe, we had enough better to go 5-7, but we were not like this. So real quick, before we really dive in, are we probably going back to 1990?
Gosh, yeah. I mean, yeah, that's how excited I am. I mean, I know there's been seasons, and you know me, Carp. You are the absolute most amazing person I've ever met in my life that remembers everything to the point of, if it was raining that day or if there was a robin on your, deck when you left that morning. Definitely. I don't remember things. They become jumbled to me. But I know I remember the excitement back in the day, with that 90 team and, Colorado and that early game, right? And the talent there. I was, a sophomore or a junior, I guess a junior in college at SIU. And back then, kids, you didn't get to see every game like you do nowadays. So a lot of times my dad would mail me the News Gazette articles on the Illini games, and Lon Tay's, account of the game. And just, I couldn't wait. I couldn't wait every week. Like on Wednesday, the mail would arrive, or maybe Thursday, actually, the mail would arrive in Carbondale, and it would be a yellow folder from my dad and never any money. Still pissed him. But
come on, man.
Yeah, come on, Neil. So, but no, he would always include all the News Gazette football stories about that season, and I could not get enough of it, So the excitement level was there. I still remember the year we started out 6-0, and how that seemed to be like such an amazing thing. Like this is it. And then of course that took a horrible collapse. But man, I'm excited for this year, and I'm not even to the point like where you're like, oh boy, but what if this happens or what? I think this team is damn good, Carp. And when you've got, I know I heard you and Jeremy talking about all the minute win, like I don't want to say lucky, but the Schiano taking a timeout. Jeremy pointed that out, or Northwestern, or if Altmaier fumbles, they call that a fumble, which I think it was. Then, then maybe you lose that game against Purdue, I guess, not Northwestern. So, yeah, there's little things but there's things like that every year, right? I mean, you're going to have those. And like you said, to Werner, I'm not going to apologize for it because we've been on the other end of that so many stinking times. But I think this team has a lot of guys back. I think that bowl game, take it for what it was, but I think that bowl game showed those guys, hey, we beat an SEC team that we weren't supposed to beat. I think Illinois was about a 12-point underdog in that, or a 10?
I think it might have gotten down to 10.5, but I mean, I'll be honest, anyone that woke up that day as I'm getting lunch and stuff in Orlando, I'm not thinking, I mean, in the back of my head, I'm thinking, what if? But I'm certainly not thinking, boy, it's going to feel great when this happens. It was more just, let's see what happens.
I agree. And so I think that can carry momentum, something like that. And, I know we're going to get nitty gritty, but man, you give me 5 offensive linemen back again, some of them in their third year, I'll take that any day. Do you know the Illinois teams in the past? I've always said when Illinois is successful, they've got great play at the back end and safeties. And, they had that with Weatherspoon and Joseph and that crew. Of course, we know all about those guys. How about back with like Eugene Wilson? You remember those times.
Muhammad Abdullah, Bobby Jackson in 01. In 07, Kevin Mitchell and Justin Harrison. In 2022, Kendall Smith was like picking off things left and right as the deep guy. And then Sidney Brown was, of course, Sidney Brown. But this year, I mean, hey, like Miles Scott, pretty good. If Matthew Bailey makes that step, then there's that template. Good offensive line, good back end. Yeah.
I agree. And I think that has a lot to do with it. And this offensive line, knowing you've got Kreutz and these guys back, and JC sounds like he's healthy now, practice Saturday and then today. So I just think, man, of course, in Altmaier, I mean, you don't want to obviously miss that. A guy in his third year now with Illinois. So I think this team's damn good, and they should go out and win a lot of games. And I am bullish on them big time.
Well, if you don't mind, Lon, I'm going to hit the sponsors real quick, and then we're going to dig into this team because I echo a lot of the things that you just said there. And I think that we can, between the two of us, come up with not a dare to dream because that's just bad luck. You're not going to do dare to dream. We learned that lesson the hard way in 2011. But I do think there's another angle we can maybe take. So I'm going to hit these sponsors up real quick and then get right back to this. Real quick, the 200 level is brought to you by Hamilton Walkers in downtown Champaign. Steak, seafood, and spirits right in the heart of downtown Champaign, which means a perfect spot for a pregame meal, a date night, informal, formal. Doesn't matter. It's a scratch kitchen where everything tastes amazing, and the bartenders there are second to none. I cannot recommend their old-fashioned enough. That is Hamilton Walkers in downtown Champaign. State Farm agent Brian Hansen, online at brianismyguy.com. Life, auto, home, business renters, you name it. Brian is my guy, and he can be your guy as well. I would recommend that with Brian as your insurance agent, the reason I recommend him, I should say, is because the communication is second to none. Anytime we've had to make a change, get a new ID card, within minutes, and that's no exaggeration, Brian and the staff are ready to help out. That's brianismyguy.com. Dogtown Heating, Air, and Plumbing, your home's best friend. Give them a call and schedule that furnace check. Believe it or not, you'll need it soon. 217-841-4728. And Owen Builders, LLC, online at owenbuildersllc.com for your next home improvement project. Check out a gallery of their work online at Owen Builders LLC. All right, Lon, I'm going to bring you back in here. I'm still navigating this the video platform. And, well, look, it's a two-shot now. Unbelievable. I don't have any B-roll. I have no B-roll. I'm sorry.
You don't have the static shot of the football right by the pylon.
Or the basketball in the corner of the gym hardwood floor. We're getting a few comments here, and I appreciate that. In YouTube, we're seeing that. Also, we were on Twitter and stuff too now, Lon. So we're on all the big social media places. But I don't know if you can see this on your screen or not. From Trevor Valise, I've missed this. So Trevor is watching. Hello, Trevor. I appreciate that. Sorry, Lon. Go ahead.
I think Trevor's the funniest guy I think I know.
Yeah, what cracks me up, and I even texted him and Isaac, the three of us have a chat thread, and last year, and we'll get into the defense here, but the three of us had our reservations about Aaron Henry in his second year, thinking, man, we can't let a possible good year go to waste if we don't have a legit coordinator. So I think we're feeling better about that. And I think you and I can start on the defense, actually, because they really interest me. But I just joked with him today that, imagine Western Illinois going straight down the field for an opening six. And it's like, I want to see Trevor's face in that moment. Like, I almost want it to happen just for the pure, unadulterated rage that only the brand of which only he has really kind of mastered.
Oh, his fake anger is some of the best that you'll ever see.
It is kind of fake in that he's not. It's more of a big eye roll. Like, you've got to be kidding me. Meanwhile, like, I would actually put a hole in a wall. He wouldn't do that. He's more sane than that. But
I have put holes in walls, and I can tell you the games that I did them. So,
real quick, what were they? I had the Elite Eight game with a starch bottle through the drywall.
Yeah, against Arizona, and then when we fouled out 15 guys, and then the Notre Dame game when Notre Dame beat us and they couldn't miss. They hit like 17 threes, and I'm like, what the? And I did say that word then. And I mean,
if you really wanted to, you could here. I don't know how many kids are watching, but I'll just put the explicit button on, but you're fine.
I'll stay on board. But yeah, I mean, there were those two for sure. Now, they were both basketball, which is kind of funny. Football just seems like it's such a long 4-hour game that like you kind of get over a bad call or a bad play or something and you kind of move on from that. But basketball just seems like it can just fluctuate so much.
With an exception with football. And I know you know what I'm talking about. And I was an 8th grader at this point. It was Michigan 2000 was the one time that I genuinely have left that stadium with a feeling of we got screwed, and I don't like that. It was almost like acid in your stomach kind of thing. It really hurt leaving the stadium that night. And I know Kent Brown, and he visits my class and stuff, and I'll get you lined up for that too if you're okay with it. But I know he gave you a little slap on the wrist for your sideline, should I say, antics?
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted the idiot who then ironically became like the replay guy in the Big Ten. I don't even know his name right now, and I don't even care. But I just let him know that I've got video on my camera that I shot of both missed calls and that you effing missed those calls.
I love it. And it's Bill Lamonier.
Bill Lamonier, yeah. Mm-hmm. And Kent just kind of stared at me, and I was like, Kent says he doesn't remember this, so I'm kind of glad he doesn't. But he basically said, that won't happen again, because we would always like in the last, usually we'd go down from the press box in the last maybe 4 or 5 minutes of the game and stand on the sidelines if we weren't the one shooting. But that day I was the one shooting, using the camera, in other words, videoing the game. So I was down on the sideline the entire game for the Rocky fumble that wasn't. And then the fumble that was with Michigan that they ruled wasn't. And I don't know, it's just, listen, the kid brother syndrome when it comes to Michigan and Ohio State, we have to deal with that. There's so many teams that have to deal with that crap. It was even more so then. And, those were the two teams that voted against replay in the Big Ten, right? And it was only when Ohio State got screwed with something that they decided, hey, wait, we're going to vote for replay now. And then Michigan kind of came on board. But it's like, well, no wonder you're not voting, because you get every freaking call. And, Jay Lehman always says it was the old Rose Bowl flag, right? Where mysteriously here comes the, oh, wait, there's a hold on Illinois. So let's negate that 14-yard run for a first down that would keep the clock chewed. So, yeah, I mean, that kind of stuff just, yeah. Why'd you do that? Why'd you bring that up?
I didn't know it would go there, but I'm glad it did, because this actually, before we get into this season, makes me reflect why last season was so meaningful to me. And I want to get your thoughts on this. There were, let's call, 3 signature games last year. And I'm not including Rutgers because that was a miracle comeback and a great play and a great drive before that. But it was Kansas and it was South Carolina. But most importantly, it was Michigan. And I know Michigan was down, and that's despite Sharon Moore just being a genius of a football coach. Trevor knows well what I think about Sharon Moore. Regardless, despite Bret Bielema out coaching, who I think is the cream of the crop in the coaching Big Ten, Sharon Moore, I think that day was so meaningful because 24 years removed from the Michigan game in 2000, which for my 13 going on 14-year-old self was very informative in how I viewed the football program. As you're not going to amount to anything, so why try? That sounds really defeatist, but it was kind of in the back of my head with football for so long that during the Michigan game last year on this, absolutely, it's as if God himself drew up the perfect day for you.
He did.
The weather, CBS with the best announcing team, old-timey throwback sepia-toned intro and the hats and the flapper girl on the sideline. Don't get me started on that. Woo, Jenny Odell. What a talent. But to walk out of that stadium and everything went right. Everything. And it seemed to tell me, and this is why the Bielema era to me has been so refreshing, is that there are no hexes. There are no jinxes or curses. You just need a good coach. And in our lifetimes, and I'm including you here, Mike White had a little run. Makovic he left, and he would have had a longer run, though he wasn't exactly Mr. Personality. And finally, probably for the first time in your lifetime, you feel like Illinois has a coach that checks all the boxes and that we can have our cake and eat it too on occasion. That's why last year to me was just so freaking important. And it really changed my mindset going into this season and beyond.
100%. And Carp, I don't need this year to be spectacular to remember really good things about last year, right? I understand that it would be really painful, and it would be something that just, I don't even want to think that way if this team went out and only won 7 games, let's say, this season. But last year happened. And again, that bowl game that nowadays when we go into these games going, well, it's just a bowl game that nobody cares about. Nobody plays in it. You know, all the good players don't want to get hurt for the NFL. That thing turned into an absolute, we've got to win this game. And it was because of Bret Bielema. And what you love about him is he's got moxie, man. And this is a guy that has won on a big stage, right, at Wisconsin. But then he got like humbled as much as you can get humbled at Arkansas, literally getting fired as he's walking off the field by the athletic director. You talk about peaks and valleys there. And then in between getting that time with Bill Belichick to pick his brain with in the NFL with the Patriots. And then for him to just kind of come home, and he's our guy, Carp. Like, he's from Illinois. And how many times has that been a story? Maybe more so back in the day, it seemed like, you know, well, this guy's from Illinois. Like Derrick Rose is from Illinois. He's supposed to lead us to a national title, you know. And then, you know, then it just never happened. Well, Bret Bielema's from Illinois. I know he played at Iowa and I know he coached at Wisconsin, but he's a guy that was born right here in the state of Illinois. And so I feel like with both him and the basketball program with Brad Underwood, I feel like you got 2 guys in Champaign-Urbana right now that are very happy with where they're at. They're content. They don't need to go anywhere else. I feel like both of them have the kind of, they don't need to be wooed with a bigger contract from somebody, right? You know what? Brad Underwood's what, 60? I don't know. You know, Bret Bielema's 55. Yeah. I'll be 55 in October. I think you get to a certain age and you're like, you know what? I got it pretty good right here. Like, why do I need to keep chasing this thing if it's working where it's at? And I feel like with both coaches, we're in good shape for a few years with both those. But you're right. And now that said about last year, I think that bowl game, like I mentioned earlier, gave this team momentum and gave him some spark. I mean, Luke Altmaier is a completely different dude these days. And not that he wasn't, and I'm not talking about his play on the field. His, you know, him being voted captain, his leadership, what he says the right things. And he's so calm. I've always said, Carp, like a really good athlete to me is the athlete that when you look out on the basketball court or the football field or whatever sport, baseball field, it's the athlete that is just so measured. And they're just sitting there and you're just like Albert Pujols was this to me. He was just a guy that when you saw him on the baseball field, he was just like, we're good. Like, we're going to take care of this. I'll get a big hit in the 7th and we're going to win this game. And that's what I feel like Luke Altmaier has right now. He's got that just not the game slowed down kind of mentality, but just he's got it figured out. And now he's in, I think, for a big season for Illinois. Even though one of my concerns is on that offensive side of the ball, which we'll get to. But I think Luke's in for a big year, and I just think he has so much confidence going into the season that makes me feel good about his play coming up.
I feel like I actually haven't talked enough about Luke in the preseason because he's a given in a certain way. Right. I don't expect Heisman-type numbers because of probably the position group that we'll talk about here. But I do think that when the plays have to be made, you're still going to get that. And one other thing, too, that I need to kind of go back and renege what I had said earlier in podcasts with Jeremy and Trevor and probably with Isaac, too. You mentioned the bowl game, and I was there, and it was really important. And I feel like I kind of poo-pooed that a little bit earlier this month. And I want to reverse my take on that, or I should say have a stronger take, which is kind of what you're saying. The value of beating a really good SEC team when you had full decks on both sides for the most part. Yeah. We were missing Pat Bryant. I think they were missing a running back. That's about it. And that game was wanted badly by both teams, especially after the Bielema Beamer incident. So for it to end the way it did, I shouldn't let me rephrase that. I should actually maybe start looking at what kind of mental effect that has and had throughout the entire offseason. The fact that you were knocking on the door of the college football playoff kind of anyway, and I know you and I would probably both agree they weren't quite playoff caliber, but regardless, you weren't that far, so why not just go do it now? And with all these guys coming back,
and it makes
you 22.
Yeah, that South Carolina team last year was what, the last man not invited to the college football playoff, right? They were
by a lot of accounts, they were the 13th.
Yeah, like they were expected to be there. So in a way, you played a game that became meaningful. And a lot of it is because of the barge, or not the barge, but whatever that was again.
T-bar.
Yeah, exactly. That game became meaningful against an SEC team that you had never beaten. I don't mean just South Carolina. You'd never beaten an SEC team in the history of your program. So to do that and to beat South Carolina, a team that essentially was a college football playoff team, that showed me as a fan, and that should show Illinois players as a team, damn, we're pretty good. Like, we do belong in that college football playoff, because South Carolina, by all rights, could have easily been in that college football playoff, and you went and beat them. And it wasn't a fluke thing. It wasn't anything. I mean, both teams had leads late, and, McCray just kind of iced it with that long run. But, I looked at that game. Number one, nobody should overblow a bowl game, but I think that bowl game last year meant a lot to this team going forward, and it should give them a hell of a lot of confidence going into the season, knowing, look, we competed toe-to-toe with a college football playoff team last year, and by God, we are a college football playoff team this year.
There have been two cathartic moments in the last 2 seasons of revenue sports that I think were so meaningful because of the previous 15 years of not so good stuff. Less so for basketball, because Underwood's had that thing humming since 2020. But those 2 plays were the Terrence Shannon dunk, steal and dunk. And there's video of me and Isaac and a whole garage full of people when that happened, and literally breaking the microphone. I mean, it just, the sound it popped the mixer. So there's that. But there's no video of what I did when McCray snuck through that line. Right. And then he's rumbling for 60 yards. But to me, between that, and this is why, last thing I'll say about last year's team and the season, why it was so meaningful, where there were all these moments, the Xavier Scott pick 6 against Kansas, or the late touchdown drive by Altmaier to seal that. And then when you get a strip sack at the end of the game against Jalen Daniels to put an exclamation point on it. It was the Michigan fake punt. And when Michigan missed a field goal, that would have brought it within a score in the third quarter. And it's like, wow, everything is going our way. It was the Pat Bryant catch and run. It was the Aiden Lawfrey 3 touchdown runs of 50+ yards. And then it was McCray. So to me, Lon, why I think you're right about how much that meant for this team going in. I think we can also talk real quick, too, about how much it means for the fan base, because you and I are going to feel it Friday, even compared to last Thursday night's opener, or last year's Thursday night opener against the IU. I know Friday's a little bit better for attendance, but I think we're going to feel something in the lots that is not something we normally feel for that annual FCS opponent, directional school thing. Instead, it's going to feel like, hey, we got a squad, and if all things go right, see you guys at halftime. And it used to be when see you guys at halftime meant, yeah, let's see if we can keep it within a couple scores. No, now we flipped it and it's see at halftime because they're going to kick some ass. That's a nice place to be.
Well, and it's cheesy, but this year, every game counts. In the past, Carp, we counted games to 6, right? We counted to 6 to get to a bowl game. That was kind of the measure of success for Illinois football. Let's get to a bowl game. Let's don't have another one of those lousy 5-7 seasons or 4-8. Or God forbid, the 2-win seasons or whatever that we've all lived through, and the no wins. But it always used to be, let's count to 6. Now this year you're counting to 10. And if that doesn't excite you as a fan to know, after this Friday, I mean, let's face it, they're gonna whip Western Illinois to the chagrin of Trevor when they give up an early touchdown to the Leopard. Full panic mode. But you're gonna walk out of there Friday and it's 9 more, because I truly think 10 wins get you into the college football playoff. Right now, things can change, things can happen. Who knows? You know, I know last year was kind of that doom of that 3 loss, you know, would knock you out, kind of what happened to South Carolina. But yeah, for me this year, it's going to be just a simple, like, I'm going to walk out of the Horseshoe on my way to the tailgate lot, and in my mind, I'm going to be like 6 more, 4 more, you know, 2 more. And we're at 10, and we're going to a college football playoff. And think about this, Carp. Like, I remember when you did the show, and like Derek and I were doing the show, and probably not so much with Jeremy, because we didn't really see much. Well, hell, you and I didn't see much success. No. But you think about, like, I used to think when this Big Ten became what it is now, with Penn State and Nebraska, and I know Nebraska is kind of this weird team now that, like, they were the team that was beating us so bad when I was 14 years old that I was like, I don't ever want to play Nebraska again. And then now, all of a sudden, in a weird way, they've kind of been that one game for the last, like, 3 of the last 5 years where that one game was really big to beat Nebraska, and you always did, it seemed like. But like when Penn State and Michigan and Ohio State, and then Michigan State went on the runs, and then we know about Iowa, we know about Wisconsin. And I always thought to myself, you know, thank God basketball can win a Big Ten title, because Illinois will never win a Big Ten title in football. And that's not even a rip on Illinois football. I mean, that's just how hard it is to compete with the Ohio States and the Michigans every year. And I don't even know if this year's team can win the Big Ten. I mean, I may have been standing on that field at Memorial Stadium in 2001. That may very well be the last time Illinois wins a Big Ten football championship in my life.
It might.
Now, I'll be 55 in October, and I'm hoping to at least get to 70. I got 15 more in me, Carp.
You're counting down just like wins. You're counting down years. It's 15 more. Come on.
Start at 80. Let's start at 80 with that one. Not
okay,
70.
Cool.
I want to see grandkids. But it is one of those where it's like, never did I dream that Illinois would win a Big Ten title. Then it's like, well, hell, we'll never be in a Big Ten championship game. Now that seems to be a reality. And then it's like, well, I know one thing, we'll never make the college football playoff, because when are we ever in the final 4 when it was 4 and now 12? But then, damn, here we sit with the chance, right? And that will – I'm expecting a big season, Carp. And I don't want to be disappointed by not getting to a college football playoff, because, you know, next year, that whole offensive line that we brag about having everybody back, well, they're going to be going, most of them. Luke Altmaier, who's been here for 3, you know, is your stud quarterback. He's going to be gone. You know, Gabe Akis, who's an NFL guy, he's going to be gone. You know, and so I know Bret Bielema will keep piecing things together, and he'll keep this team relevant. I really, truly believe that. But, man, I just feel like we are on the cusp of doing something that I personally never thought I would see happen with Illinois football. That's how big this season is to me, and that's why when I walk out of Memorial Stadium, it's going to be countdown from 10 or up to 10 or down 10, whatever you want to do. Like, that's 1. Now we need 9 more, and that's going to be my kind of philosophy in this season.
I like your approach, because it is true, a 10-2 record, and this is the difference between Illinois this year and Indiana last year. Where you start matters. So by starting at 12, if you go 10-2, you held up your end of the bargain as the number 12 team in the country. And assuming one of those losses is Ohio State, even more so. An argument could also be made that it'd be much more valuable to lose a stinker as long as you get the Ohio State win. So, like, beat Ohio State, but randomly lose to Rutgers on November 1st, which is not outside the realm of possibility, but then that might actually be advantageous. But I think that one thing I've been cautioning myself, but I'm not going to call this Dare to Dream because of the bad juju around that. But I've been cautioning myself and not allowing myself to go too far down the rabbit hole of what if everything does go well? And it can't. That's the thing, Lon, is that when I make my prediction, and mine is 9-3, and we'll go down the schedule here in a bit, and we'll talk briefly about the units, but I like this macro conversation. This is what you and I do. So to me, I go 9-3 because I think talent-wise, it's not an elite team, and I think we'd agree on that. But experience and the fact that they've been through these battles before means that even if they're more of an 8-win caliber team, I think all that experience in the coaching staff are worth another win. So that's why if 8.5 were what Vegas had, and I think it might still be at 7.5. I'm not sure. It'd be a hard call for me to make because I could see either. But to your point, and let's go down this a little bit.
I want to be cocky, Carp.
Yeah.
You know, we get cocky with Illinois basketball, right? I don't mean to stop you right there and interrupt.
No, though.
Like, we know when we go to East Lansing against a really good Michigan State basketball team, we got a shot. We're Illinois. We've done this before. I don't know that I've ever been cocky as an Illinois football fan. Like, I want to feel that one year. I want to feel the bravado. I want to be the guy that turns on College game day and there's highlights of Illinois or they're actually talking about Illinois or hell, they're here and actually in Champaign-Urbana, which would be the first time ever. Thanks a lot, ESPN. But like, I want to be that cocky fan one time that believes so much in their team that I'm going to go into that stadium every Saturday, even against Ohio State, and say, why can't we beat Ohio State? We got a good enough team to beat Ohio State. They lost a lot of guys. I know it's Ohio State. Nobody needs to explain that to me. But I just want to be cocky once, Carp. And I want this football team to back me up on that. Let's all be cocky. Let's all be really good. And then when the dust settles next year, we'll see if that team can win 7 or 8. And we'll go from there.
I think Bret Bielema would agree with you because he can be a little cocky himself. And he's a really skilled communicator that finds that balance between, this is my team, we're really good, but also just, he can be a pretty good diplomat too when it comes down to it. He's a great kind of veteran face of the Big Ten coaching fraternity. Okay, so let's talk about how we get there, how we get to a 10-win season. We'll do the schedule in just a bit, but first, you did mention a possible concern on offense. I'm going to give you a bright spot followed by that concern that I think you'll echo. I think the bright spot, and I'm kind of with Jeremy on this, is I think the running game will be very good this year. And it goes down the line. It goes to the fact that you basically have 4 tight ends that this coaching staff really likes. So you mix and match them. And then, yes, it comes down to health of running backs, but I think you could afford one of them going down, which at some point will happen if it's only for a few games.
Right.
If you got big enough holes anyways, and you got athletes back there, well, here you go, Khalil Valentine. Here's your table is ready. So that leads, though, into a concern, which is not something you can't overcome. I think this will be a very efficient offense. But Pat Bryant and Zachary Franklin did cover up some stalled drives and things last year with Zachari's one-handed grab against Kansas or Pat Bryant's numerous 30-plus yard receptions. I don't know who does that. So what's your concern level with that position group, wide receiver?
It is a concern to me. And it's not that it's not that I don't think Illinois, not we, that's not professional, right? I'm retired now from the media business.
What you want.
Yeah. It's not that I don't think Illinois has talent at that spot, but we haven't seen Malik Elzy break through. I don't know anything about this Clement kid coming in from West Virginia. I mean, he was a walk-on at West Virginia, but he had a hell of a year last year. I mean, he's had a hell of a couple of years. Bowick, I don't know anything about him. He seems like a big receiver. Last year, you knew, and so did Luke Altmaier, that he could rely on Zachary Franklin anywhere around the middle of the field, and it was sure-handed as anybody that has played at Illinois in a long time at a receiver. Or he had a superstar in Pat Bryant, who I think is going to do big things with the Denver Broncos. Lit up the Arizona Cardinal third stringers the other night, by the way. So,
but he is just objectively good. So that doesn't say anything bad about the Arizona Cardinal third stringers.
But you talked about like the catch against Rutgers, and then how about just the catch on the sidelines, and just like you're like, how the hell did he catch that? Like he's the closest thing to Brandon Lloyd that I can remember, and AJ Jenkins was great. Let's don't forget Mikey Dudek and how freaking awesome he would have been if he would have stayed healthy. I love that kid. I love that family. But that was a legit Brandon Lloyd kind of wide receiver last year with Pat Bryant. And those don't come along very often. I don't care where you're at. Now, maybe you're Ohio State. Maybe you get those guys every year. But at Illinois, who's had really good wide receivers through the years, to get that kind of a level of play. And then, by the way, Zachary Franklin, who was an absolute godsend to that team last year, I think from a leadership role, and I think just from consistency with Luke Altmaier to be there. So, yeah, that worries me. Like, I honestly think somebody will step up, but I don't know that they're going to have to do it as a group. There's nobody that's going to have that kind of a season that Pat Bryant had. Not many people do.
But I'll say this. You're right about the group part. I 100% agree with that. I know that Jeremy and Joey on their podcast have talked a lot about, like Colin Dixon is a name that Jeremy's really high on. I am too. And I was talking to Jeremy about the fact that, call it intangible qualities, the look of Colin Dixon, his downfield blocking was superb. I mean, the Pat Bryant touchdown does not happen at Rutgers if Colin doesn't lay a really awesome block down the field. And that's really good awareness for, I guess, a redshirt freshman. But here's the thing. It's sort of like this idea with basketball sometimes. Someone's got to get the points, right? Someone. It's not like Barry Lunny's going to say, okay, guys, this awesome quarterback is only going to throw it 20 times a game just because we don't use the receivers. He's going to throw it the same frequency. So my hot take is this. I don't think that Colin Dixon is like a 600-yard guy. I think from sheer targets and frequency of being on the field alone, he could get 900-plus yards.
Wow.
And, I mean, do the numbers. I mean, 13 games, then, 900. So, like, 75 yards a game. Okay. With a couple hundreds in there and a couple 50s. But I just think the consistency is going to be there in the frequency that someone's got to get them. So the question to me then is, who can be a deep threat? Because it's not him, I don't think. And that's no fault of his own. I think he's going to be great in the middle of the field. I think on post even, you might be able 15, 18 yards, no problem. But what about the sideline? And this is where if a Malik Elzy could just be here's an idea. In 2021, who was the kid against Nebraska in the first game that they found deep? He was our deep threat in 2021, and then he transferred to Miami. He was a former he was a quarterback prospect. Deuce Spann.
Good call.
Give me and I think Malik can be more than that overall as a receiver, but just that's what I'm talking about, is just someone that can take the top off of the defense on occasion. As long as you get that or have the ability maybe 3-4 times a game to take that shot and land it once, I think they'll be fine between the line of scrimmage and 15 yards deep. I'm not really worried about that, but if you really want to open things up for everybody, and maybe it's Malik, maybe it's Bowick because of the size and the speed, but just one of them, or as you said, by committee.
I agree with you, Carp, and that would be huge. And that Memorial Stadium this Friday would erupt the first deep pass Altmaier throws that's caught downfield when we say, all right, look, maybe we're not expecting him, whoever him is, with Elzy or Bowick or whomever, to be Pat Bryant this year. But if you can give us some remnants of that on occasion, I'm with you on Colin Dixon. I also think Hank Beatty's going to have a big year. I mean, that guy made some huge my son just texted me. He said the Huggy on your wall looks stupid. That is the Southeastern Community College. That's where Andrew's going to pitch. So I wanted to put that in the picture. So now Lucas is giving me shade on.
Well, you were talking. I see it, and it's called the Huggy or a koozie. It's the same, one and the same.
Yeah, same deal.
Okay. No, but yeah, I mean, I like that. So you were talking though about. I think that you make a good point about Beatty, and there was the pattern that the middle of the field catch he made against South Carolina late in the game. You needed a first down. He got smoked, held on to it, but also the return game stuff that you get from him too. I know Alex Kapka-Jones has been thrown around. I do think it'll be interesting, Lon, and I think that we're going to see a vanilla game on Friday, and that's okay. I hope that's the case, that they can do that. But I do think that the personnel and how many snaps they're getting is probably going to be what you see at Duke and probably going to be what you see at Indiana. And it might not be until early October where you see that too deep at the wide receiver room really flesh out. I think there's enough uncertainty, probably even within that building.
That's a great point. And I don't need to even comment on that further. That's a great point. And I loved your point about the run game too, with the tight ends. Like Tanner Arkin is the guy that Illinois fans love. I remember just the day that it came down, like Tanner Arkin's transferring to Illinois from Colorado State. And I'm like, that's where Trey McBride went to college. Like, I wonder if he's any good, how good is this guy? And then Tanner Arkin's been huge for Illinois. The unknown of Cole Rusk, can he get out and make some catches? It sounds like they've got two young tight ends that came in that they really like. Maybe not Young, but the Stoffel kid. I'm sure I'm saying their names wrong. From South. I think you're right on the run game. And why can't Caden Fagan just have a big year?
He could.
Why couldn't he just go off, right? I mean, I know he's been the injury thing, and I hate that we always say like that's an injury-prone kid now, and maybe he deserves that with 2 straight years of a shoulder and knee, I think. But how about he just come out and just dominate? And we saw what Aiden Lawfrey can do. So, man, I tell you, if you get anything, who knows? Maybe Braden Trimble turns out to be this. I mean, they love it.
Disagree.
Out of Mount Zion, he's a great kid, by the way. My son Andrew went to Mount Zion his senior year and got to know Braden really well, and just a great, wonderful young man. So for that to materialize to where he gives him some, I think this offense will score, right? I think they'll score, and like you said, they're not Barry Lunny. Yeah, and can we mention him too? Like,
good.
How nice is it to have Barry Lunny back, right? And probably his last year, because if Illinois does the things we think, I'm guessing Lonnie's a head coach somewhere next year. And they always say you want that in your program because you know that they're going on to bigger things because we did well. But I'd love Barry Lunny to be our offensive coordinator for the next 10 years if he wants to stick around.
That'd be great. But as I told Jeremy, I don't need the Jay Prices of the world. And no offense to Jay Price. I just don't need the Jay Prices and the Wayne McLeans and I don't forget who the third guy was. But he was here a long time too. But I do think, though, to the Caden Fagan point, man, I just threw shade. Like, we lived through the Weber thing. I'm sorry. I mean, I'm glad he owns Custard Cup. That's fun. Nice guy. Whatever. We move on. But no, my thought is this with Caden is that Josh McCray last year couldn't stay healthy until he could.
Yeah.
That's injuries in football. And I'm just hoping, like you do, that we've gotten the 2 big injuries out of the way. We get the healthy season. Because here's the deal on, if he is healthy this year, he's going to be very, very good. He's going to be all Big Ten good if he plays all 13 games. Great. And behind that line, he's easily going to get 1,000+ yards. Here's my thing that I've learned as a fan. And I don't know why this just occurred to me, but of course I love a pass play down the field. Those are home runs, and I love it. But, man, I love a good single, too. And what I mean by that is just, oh, wow, the running back sneaks between the tackle and the guard. That's 6, 2nd and 4.
Boom.
That is, to me, why, let's say, the Rose Bowl year was as fun as it was, because you didn't have a great quarterback. You had a great running quarterback, but not a good passing quarterback. But, man, when you wanted to run, you could. And the other team just couldn't really stop you. You won 9 games with the team that, I don't know if they were 9-win good, but they got it done because they could run it. I could see this team really being the best rushing attack that Bielema has had here and being an objectively good one in the when you stack it up against other Big Ten teams.
That's well said. And how often did we watch teams do that against us? And it deflates you as a fan when you cannot stop, when you know every first down they're going to get 6 yards and you can't do anything about it. You talk about just mentally wearing a team down. And that's what a running game can do. And that's why you're dead on with that point about the offensive line and also Caden. It's too bad McCray isn't back. I mean, that would have been nice. I don't blame him.
I get it.
It'd be kind of cool, to go play at Georgia, and know you're going to be in the college football playoff. But, McCray, it was such a cool story with him being the first recruit of Bret Bielema. But, he did a lot for us. And he got us that run that capped off the Citrus Bowl win. And that's a run that we'll always remember. I'll always remember that run. And I'll always remember, McCray coming in as a freshman and just doing his thing. But, yeah, now it's time to kind of hand it off, right? Excuse the pun, to either Fagan or to Lawfrey and let those guys make it happen. And I think Caden Fagan, should he stay healthy, I am with you 100%. If he's healthy through however many games Illinois plays, behind that offensive line, yeah, he's going to have an all Big Ten kind of season. And we're talking over 1,000 yards. Get me back to the Robert Holcomb days, by the way, one of my low-key favorite Illinois football players ever, Robert Holcomb.
Sometimes the good ones in the bad years you grow an affinity for because it's like, well, at least we had that guy. I want to flip to defense. Oh, sorry, Lon, go ahead.
I'm sorry, all-time leading rusher, right?
Yeah. Well, and let's be honest, in this day and age, college football will probably remain so. I mean, just because of how many moving pieces there are. Real quick, before we get the schedule, the defense, just straight up, I'm going to ask you this yes or no question. Will the defense this year be objectively good? And if we're going to measure good, I mean, I'm guessing they were middle of the pack Big Ten last year, which is good enough for Illinois. But let's say out of 18 teams, like a top 6 defense, do they have the capability of being good? And I guess that'd actually be very good.
I think they do, because I like the safeties. I like the corners. I love the Scott. Torrey Cox, right, is back.
Patterson, you have depth with Jaheim Clark. You have Xavier Scott at the star position. You have Rosiak back,
right,
as your Mike, and then you found this is why I am optimistic, actually, Lon, because I think that the way November shook out is really, if you look at that month as a whole, was a very promising month for Illinois, and that's even with it, I believe, starting with the loss to Minnesota at home. It was the way they rebounded with the Michigan State performance. Rutgers was messy, I know, but that defense is working a lot of new guys in. And then you cap that off with the South Carolina win. I like the depth you kind of had to build linebacking wise, but if James Thompson is a star, then I think they are a top 6 Big Ten defense, and that's an if, but I could see it happening.
No, you nailed it right there. Those guys that we're bringing in from Wisconsin, and then the young man from Florida State, I can't say his name.
I always forget it. Durage.
That's good enough for me. If those guys can be difference makers, maybe not stars, maybe not all Big Ten, but if those guys can be difference makers there on that line, I think that's huge. I think Kenenna Odeluga, is that how you say it?
Kenenna Odeluga, who has had some injury concerns, but is it Ezekiel Holmes or Malachi Hood? Sorry.
Yeah.
And James Kreutz as another guy. See, would we agree, I guess, that it's weird? We're looking at the front 7 or front 6, however you look at it, and there are just a bunch of dudes. So the question is, okay, other than a Rosiak and James Thompson, what do you really have? And yet, I think I'm entrusting the staff and the fact that a lot of those guys got valuable snaps in November in the bowl game to hopefully have a carryover effect and solidify that.
No, amen. And your mention of Rosiak, I literally was watching. What was I watching? Maybe the Big Ten Network had their season preview on Illinois, and they mentioned Rosiak, and I was like, oh, hell, I forgot he's back. And, he might not set the world on fire, but give me a guy that's been around for 4 or 5 years in the middle of that defense. You could ask Jay Lehman that, and how important it is to have a guy that kind of understands what play is being called, understands where guys are supposed to be. He can kind of quarterback those guys on that defensive line as well. And then look, why can't Gabe Akis just come out and be one of the top 10 defensive linemen or edge rushers in college football and put his name in the first round of the NFL draft? I mean, I'm getting excited, man. I'm glad you had me on, because it's exciting to say these names. Like Malachi Hood, he came on last year and showed a lot of speed. What's one thing Illinois defense has never had, right? Like speed. But all of a sudden now you get a little bit of that from Hood, and you love that back end with Scott and those guys. And man, to me, you just got gamers. You got guys that want to get out there, and you got to feel good about Aaron Henry. Look, the first year we did a radio show, we weren't as good as we were in year 2, and we weren't as good as we were in year 3. And so having Aaron Henry back for a 3rd year, plus having Barry Lunny now with where he's at, I mean, Illinois' got 2 pretty darn good coordinators, a really good one, I think, with Barry Lunny. We'll see if Aaron Henry turns into that. That excites you, and I know you've said that with the coaching staff. I mean, Bielema, I don't think he's out – like, coaches don't outsmart Bielema. I think he's such a game manage, like, from Monday to Saturday. I think he does that so well inside that building to where he's ready to roll, on game day. So, man, I'm excited. Let's get to that schedule, because I'm excited to hear your thoughts.
I got one last thing before we do the schedule. I just had this thought occur to me that, okay, this team will have a very good season and I wanted just to do the players that if they were to lose these players, it would be like It would change things. We're gonna start with two givens. We would agree, I think, on offense that you cannot lose Luke Altmaier. Duh. And then on defense, I think we'd both say Akis just because of an edge rushing ability, right? Like he's a game wrecker. Okay. So if we were to pick one more offensive player that you can't really afford to lose and one more defensive player you can't really afford to lose, which one would you go with on each side? Because if I'm going offense, I know it sounds kind of boring, but I feel like as long as you got J.C. Davis anchoring the left side of the line and you got Luke Altmaier, one of those other guys could go out and you got Schuster or someone they could put back in there who they really like, or Hansen they've been talking about a lot about. McMillan could come in, I think, for a cruise if that happened. Okay, fine. And defensively, the other guy that I would probably say you cannot afford to lose would be Xavier Scott, just because of his playmaking ability. So, like, that's my four. I don't know if you'd go the same four, if there maybe be any differences.
Same four. Same. Okay. You got to have that guy on the back end. You've got to have that left tackle to protect Luke Altmaier. And obviously, we understand with Altmaier and Akis and what they bring to this team. I'm with you on that. I think most Illini fans would side with us on those four.
Yeah, and I just say that because before we get into our predictions, if those four are healthy the entire season, I have zero qualms about them winning 9 games and having the ability to win more. So.
And Matthew Bailey, too. Matt Bailey. That kid, man, he's a beast.
Well, Lon, here's my thought. If Bailey has a jump and if James Thompson is really good, then I think that defense might be a better unit than your offense.
I agree. I 100% agree. And Matt Bailey could be this close to being a real star.
Yeah.
You know, that Sidney Brown kind of role where Bailey's up at the line of scrimmage and he's like a linebacker. He's big. He's a big kid. And the ability now to he'd be able to cover a tight end, right? And you know, to be able to do stuff like that. So I think he adds so much to your team in terms of a safety that's physical. And you mentioned guys like Justin Harrison back in the day and those guys that could just come up and lay a hit on you. I think Matt Bailey is that kid, and I'm really excited to watch him play this year.
Let's do the schedule, and I think the way to do this, and this is such a nice place to be in, it used to be counting to 6, so we would have to count out the wins as we went along. This time, it's actually going to probably be easier for us to remember what losses we're predicting because hopefully there's a lot fewer. So, Western, okay, win, yada, yada. We move on. I'm also going to get Western Michigan out of the way. We're going to call that a win.
That's fine.
Okay, so I want to package these two together and get your opinion of the first 2 road games, Duke, Indiana, and how you see this unfolding. Because if you are going to find your way to 10-2, I actually think you might need to sweep those games. Yeah. But the good news is not necessarily. Like you could afford an early bump and maybe be okay on the back end. But how do you see those 2 games shaking out?
So I've always been worried about the Duke game, but I'm starting to become what am I trying to say? Geez, Lon. Hello, reboot. Oh, I need another beer.
Record scratch.
The thing that I'm thinking more, like they've got a really good quarterback that's coming in. I mean, they paid
Tulane, yeah,
dude or whatever. I feel like the Duke game is a game that we worry about maybe too much. Like, why are we worried about Duke? But
no, I get it, and I wish we were playing a scrub. However, there's value in this game in that I think it's quite winnable. And if you win it, it's going to look great and essentially say, oh, yeah, they're definitely legit 12. Maybe let's move them up a couple spots. Putting you in a position entering the game in Indiana and then USC at home to basically pencil yourself into the college football playoff in September.
That's crazy to think. I look at this Duke game kind of like I looked at Nebraska last year with Raioli. You know, like, we're going to go into this game against Duke, and you're going to hear the announcers talk about their quarterback all freaking, the entire pregame is going to be about the Duke quarterback. And, oh, by the way, Luke Altmaier, a pretty good quarterback for Illinois. It's like, here we go. I feel like all the hype will be on this Mensa kid or whatever his name is for Duke. I think Duke's going to be good. I think it'll be a hard game to win, as was Nebraska last year when you won in overtime, right? Am I getting my years right?
No, that was correct. I mean, and unfortunately, that overtime was the most relaxing extra period I've ever seen. So, I mean, compared to the 9 overtime craziness of Penn State, this was just like, oh, you scored, and then they were 3rd and 47.
Throw it to Bryant, let Rosiak go sack Rioli, and let's win this game and put a feather in our cap. I do think you'll beat Duke. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but I think it's the storyline of this is a really good quarterback. I think he'll play well. We kind of saw that with Sellers last year with South Carolina. Oh, boy, going into this game, this must be the second coming of, Peyton Manning or whatever great quarterback is out there. And don't get me wrong, he's really good. Is it Lenoris?
Sellers.
Yeah, he's really, really good, and he's going to have a big year, I think, in South Carolina. But that was kind of the storyline. And what did Illinois do? They pretty much handled him for the most part, right? So I think that'll be like the case at Duke. The thing that worries me about Indiana, another good quarterback with Mendoza, right, coming in. What scares me about Indiana, Carp, is if there's one team that feels as good or better than us, it's Indiana, right? And
are you talking about the whole, because we aren't including Ohio State here?
No. I'm sorry. Right. I'm not including.
But you just mean, and would you would put them above USC in terms of teams that worry you more? Sure.
I mean, think about that fan base. Think about Illinois fans going to the college football playoff last year and how fired up we'd be and the momentum that could bring in. I think Indiana's got that momentum. Now they're going to play 3 teams that, you and I and Warner and Trevor and Harry. We wouldn't need Harry, by the way.
No, we might not.
Yeah, we'd have to have that. But we could beat the 3 they're going to play going into that game. So Indiana's going to be 3-0, but I think Illinois is going to be 3-0. But that scares me a little bit. Just the mojo around Bloomington, I think, is going to be really high for Illinois and Indiana. When's the last time Illinois and Indiana played in a big football game?
I don't know. I mean, I'm excited. I will be there. That's the game I'm going to, and I'm hoping for a night game just because I feel like that place would be pretty conducive to it. But no, I'm in agreement. I'm in agreement with you. I'm not expecting a win when I go to Indiana, but I could actually see that in some ways being a lot like the Nebraska game last year. I know that Nebraska is last year won't probably be as good as this, or win-loss wise as good as this Indiana team this year. But I do think, though, that Nebraska team last year, talent-wise, was probably similar. The X factor Signetti, and the guy might just be a complete wunderkind of a coach who's just an absolute genius. He might be. But would we say 3-1 is the likely record coming into USC?
Yeah, I would say 3-1. I could see 4-0. I can't see 2-2.
If you're 4-0, I think you get game day for USC.
That would be incredible.
Like, you don't even have to wait for Ohio State for that. Yeah. I think so. Let's talk. Here's why I'm heartened about the start and why I think 4-1 is a distinct possibility. Let's say you lose to Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
Then you were not losing to USC. That ain't going to happen. That's just not how it works in college football. You know what I mean? Like, even if it were an emotional loss or something, lick your wounds. You're an old team. We are not losing this home game. Okay, fine. And then the cool thing about this is if you flip it and you tell me somehow you're 4-0 after Indiana, you aren't losing that USC game. You aren't. It's not in the cards. Lincoln Riley is not going to come in here and beat a 4-0 Bret Bielema team with game day in town and the college football playoff saying, here's a pencil, put your name in there.
No, I'm with you 100% on that. I'm more worried at Washington than I am with USC at home. And I've
started to flip on that.
Oh,
let me get there. Yeah.
And I know being at home comforts us a little bit, and it should. Teams normally play better at home in front of their crowd. I just think that the momentum you would have going into that game at 4-0, what you just said is perfect. That will have the Michigan feel of last year around it. Number one, you're playing a USC team that, they're in the Big Ten, but for most of us, we still don't consider them in the Big Ten yet. And we remember the days when, USC and Illinois would meet in the Rose Bowl. I know we never have, but maybe in the past. But you know what I'm saying? Like, that's that West Coast team that, Illinois faced in Ireland or London or one time, or Germany, or so where the hell were they?
Did that happen? Illinois and USC did that one time?
Is that Moscow or something? Yeah, they were like overseas somewhere.
Yeah, I feel like I mean, I don't remember it personally, but I do remember reading about it. I do think that, okay, if we both then are kind of feeling 4-1, and then we say you beat Purdue, which, come on. And the fact that Ryan Walters is no longer there, I don't have that pit in my stomach like, oh, God, what if? What's that?
He's at Washington now.
Yeah, we'll get to that. And then Ohio State. So now, for the sake of being fair here, it's a tall order. I'm going to walk in that stadium, not like, oh, there's no chance. But you know what? I think if you played them 10 times at home, you get a couple wins in there. You might get 3. I don't know. So for the sake of this exercise, should we say a loss to Ohio State? Just be reasonable.
Yeah. They're just at a different level than most teams. This isn't a rip on Illinois. But I could see Illinois putting up a hell. I think that's going to be one hell of a game.
And this is why I'm starting to change my tune on Washington.
Okay.
If Washington were the following week, I would pen loss.
Yeah.
Loss. But here's the thing. It is a bye week. And then you go to Washington. And Washington, meanwhile, will be coming off of 4 straight weeks where 2 of those are Midwest trips. And no bye weeks, and their bye week comes after, I believe, the game against Illinois. So I don't want to make too much of that because I know Bret Bielema, after a bye week, struggled against Purdue last year in that weird game. But for the most part, his history suggests that his teams do very well with extra prep. It is perfectly placed before a hard road game and a West Coast trip. I've come around on that.
Okay.
And I'm feeling win, but you're feeling, and I get it. It's a tough environment, and that's a talented Washington team. You feel loss?
No, I don't. I feel good about. I don't feel good about going to Washington and winning, but I am not horribly terrified in that game. In fact, I'll be there. Lucas and I are going to that game, which is going to be cool.
That'd be awesome.
Oregon game. So when that game came up, and I think I've told you this, I've never been to the Pacific Northwest. I've been to a lot of places in this United States, but I've never been to either Oregon or Washington. So I told Lucas, who lives, in Tempe, Arizona, I said, that's a pretty easy flight for you out of Sky Harbor right into Seattle. And so I think we're going to go to that. And I'm Eric Piper's advice. I'm going to get there, I think, a day early, like on Thursday, and stay in Portland for a night. And then I'm going to take that train that goes from Portland to Seattle. Cool. I love that. I am like I cannot wait to officially retire one day and just travel the United States and travel out of the United States some as well. But I want to go see things and I'm not getting way off the thing here, but Seattle and Portland, I know it rains a lot. It's cold. All that it's not my ideal location. You know me, I'm a beach guy in the sun and all that, but I want to get on that train and just see the beauty of, and think about that time of year, October 25th. Oh, yeah. It's going to be beautiful with the colors and stuff. So I feel good I actually feel good about the Washington game. And I think if this is an Illinois team that hasn't stubbed their toe too often and is still in the running for a college football playoff, I think that makes a difference going to Washington and getting a win there.
So this takes us into November with 2 losses.
Yeah.
2. Okay. So this is where I actually think, I don't think a loss at home against Rutgers is more likely, but you know what? It would follow the Minnesota last year thing, but I think this Illinois team's better.
I do too.
I think, long story short, because November is what it is. It is such an advantageous schedule. I think by the time you play Wisconsin, Luke Fickell's a dead man walking. I think Maryland, come on. Okay. You already should be 2-0 against them. You just kind of blew it the first year, and they were much more talented than you. And then Northwestern's Northwestern at home. I'm not too concerned about that. So all that to say, Lon, we're finding ourselves on the 9-3, 10-2 doorstep. I stay at 9-3 because I don't think this talent is elite. But I don't go down to 8-4 because I think experience on personnel-wise and coaching staff matters. So if you had to plant your flag in the 10 or 9 win camp, which one is it and why?
I'm planting 10. And I'll tell you why. I agree with you in the sense that this talent might not be elite, but it's damn good. And I think it's going to be better than most of the teams they face on Saturdays. your offensive line, I would put 5 guys that are back, most of them or some of them in their 3rd year. I would put those guys up against any, or a lot of all, maybe not any. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm Phil Steele.
No. But you know what? To that point, I think most prognosticators, Steele included, they have Penn State.
Yep.
And they have Ohio State just because of the sheer talent. But then Illinois, offensive line. And not to sound like a old-timey football fan that, if you have a good offensive, but it's true.
It is
true. You have a good offensive line, it makes a world of difference.
Yep. And you've got Luke Altmaier. And
right.
That kid is calm under pressure. You're not going to – defenses aren't going to fool Luke Altmaier, right? He's seen most defenses in the Big Ten. Ryan Walters will do his thing at Washington probably, but we put up 50 against Purdue last year, right? Even though it was a scary – barely win kind of thing. But I just think this team, again, maybe not elite talent, but compared to most of the teams you're going to play, I think you have better talent. And I'm riding high with this team, man. I'm going to go full bore in on this thing, and the countdown to 10 is on right now.
I love it, and I can see it, and I want to paint a picture for you that I did with Trevor, I believe. It's December 13th. I've done this with Jeremy too. It's December 13th. It is a mild, but still chilly December evening in Champaign. It's a Friday night. And you're sitting there in lot 31, having one last cold brew before you look over, and the colonnades are in bright orange, and you can feel the buzz, and there's the sound of generators and the smell of smoke and just loud-ass music blaring from speakers. It's a cacophony of sound, and you're ready to walk in to see Illinois take on Arizona State in the opening round of the college football playoff. Lon, I'll say this right now. I wouldn't even care what happens in that game. Of course I would, but I really wouldn't. And how far they go after that. That right there, to have a moment like that would vault this season to my favorite all-time Illini season. And I think it's possible if they do go 10-2, depending how you get there, I think that would be a consideration. And then you just go from there. But I like your optimism, and I don't think it is unfounded.
I agree. And you know me, sometimes I'm wild on either end of the spectrum, but I just think this team's good, Carp. And I love your thought to that, even to the point of having Arizona State, where Lucas went to school. My oldest son went to college at Arizona State. It would be so cool for him to fly in to Champaign and watch his alma mater go against Illinois. I guarantee you he's got orange and blue in his blood. He loves Arizona State, but he loves Illinois. Both my boys do. And how cool that would be to have that moment at Memorial Stadium hosting a playoff game. Wow. I'm glad you said that, man. That's
now there is a chance you'd have to go 11-1 for that, because I think it's 5, 6, 7, 8. Get the host.
Yeah, that's probably
9, 10, 11, 12. No, but I mean, regardless, it's possible. And what a world to be in.
Let's fly to Tempe, Arizona. We'll go to the game there.
I'm in, man. I mean, this is just a cool place to be. And last thing I want to say though, and I don't know if you're in the same wavelength as this, but let's say they go 8-4.
Yeah.
I think 7-5 would be a big disappointment unless there's some major injuries and Ethan Hampton has to lead you to 7-5 and you say, hey, you know what? Okay, fine. But 8-4, let's say that happens. Listen, I've seen too much Illini football to sit here and say, really? 8-4. Music City Bowl in Nashville. Come on. That's what Iowa does. And it would be a slight letdown perhaps with what next year is going to be more uphill sledding, but it would not dissuade me from thinking that this program is in such a better place and a place that I am personally very happy with.
Amen, Carp. And I'm with you there 100%. I'll be disappointed in 8-4 if that's what happens, because Illinois football is not every day. And all you have to do is go back and say, oh, when's the last time Illinois was ranked 12th in the preseason coming in? This never really happens. So, and I know Bret Bielema wants that thinking out the door. Like he wants Illinois fans to quit worrying about that crap. But what I mean by that is you are on the verge of having a chance at a magical season. You're not always going to have that. You probably won't have that next year. And that's not a knock on that team next year. I don't know what's coming in the portal. I don't know what, but you're replacing an offensive line. You're replacing Altmaier. Gabe Akis is gone. Next year scares me going in, like in terms of what I think that team will be. But right now, you have a chance to go to a college football playoff. You cannot. This doesn't happen often. They always say if you make the playoffs in baseball, you can win a World Series. Eventually, you'll win a World Series if you make the playoffs. Maybe that's true. Illinois not very often has the chance to go compete in a college football playoff. They do this year. That's why anything under, to me, 10-2 will be disappointing.
Wow. I love it.
Bad to go 9-3, or even 8-4. Let's be honest, like you said, in Nashville for the Music City. But I've never been on this cusp like this. So,
yeah, it's pretty fun.
And like I told you, I want to be cocky. I want to put my chest out and say, we just won 10 games and we're going to the college football playoff and we're the team this year and screw the rest of you.
Then let's do it. I mean, let's do it. This is such a cool way to end it. I think that Friday won't tell us much, but it'll just be nice to be back at the stadium and just kind of, for a week before you could potentially lose a game, sit and soak in this. Hey, we might have a really good team, and that's always fun to get the opening week win and then just kind of go from there. But I appreciate you hopping on. I'm glad that we had the can we call this for promotional purposes the exclusive post 93.5 interview with Lon Tay, the tell-all interview with Lon Tay. That's what.
So now Piper and Warner and everybody are going to think that you're my favorite. And
yeah, I got the scoop, man. I'm Babs Walters, man. I'm getting the scoop. Diane Sawyer, leaving her in the dust. I got Lon Tay on this program.
Look at this. That's the Andrew Tay fall schedule, which begins this Friday in Burlington, Iowa. And I'm going to go over and watch my son put on a college uniform for the first time ever.
Amazing.
And he's not supposed to pitch Friday, but I want to be there for his first game.
Sure.
And so I'm going to miss the Illinois game. And then I think he's getting the ball game 2.
Hell yeah.
So I'm going to go back over there. But I think I'm going to miss. And Carp, including Ohio State, I think I'm going to miss that game.
Do what you got to do.
You got to do that, right? Now, Lucas is coming in south. So there will be a Tay inside the stadium and probably well-oiled by game time, a Tay well-oiled to go into that game. So I am going to miss probably 3 games this year. So just FYI to you and some people that always come by lot 31 and say, hey, and I'm going to try to get down to yours more often this year. I say this every year.
It's hard to pull yourself away from your home tailgate, though. It's hard.
It is. But I want to walk around a little bit more this year, and I want to take in. Let me end with this.
Yeah.
The 80s, your dad, like Dennis would, has told you all these stories about how the 80s were amazing. And, I was 13, 14, 15, 16 years old, right? When those teams like the Rose Bowl team and stuff were being played. But the 80s belonged to the Illini. And I remember the tail greats that you did. And I remember at that age walking around, when we weren't playing football in what is now Grange Grove. I remember walking around and just seeing all the tailgates and just that memory is stuck in my head. Like is it indelible? Is that the word I'm looking for?
Yeah.
Like it is a memory that I have, and it's one of those good places that I can go to in life. Like I remember when I was a 13-year-old kid watching Illinois, I'd go to every game with my aunt and uncle. I would tailgate with them. And this year is going to be that. Sold out crowds. I know maybe Western won't be, but sold out crowds. Lot 31 will be absolutely jammed. And this year, I want to just take, it's not all about just sitting down and drinking beer all day. And I love doing that. And I love visiting with everybody. Don't get me wrong. I want to walk around and take in the magic of what is a cool tailgate for Illinois. I mean, Illinois, look, I haven't been to a lot of tailgates around the Big Ten, but Illinois does it right, man. And we have such great acreage for it. Right outside the stadium and Lot 31 and Grange Grove. And there's just so many spaces for Illinois fans to enjoy it. And that's what I want to take in this year. Don't get me wrong. I can't wait to go into the game. but I want to just walk around and try to put another memory in my head that I have from when I was 13 years old of what this year is going to be. Because I don't know if we're going to get it. I don't know when we'll get it again. I'm not going to say it won't happen. When it'll happen again, I don't know. I want to take everything. I want to see the drum line. That's my favorite thing to watch. I want, I love when the band and the players walk in, and just all the hubbub beyond all of that is so fun. And I encourage any Illinois fan that just, has one goal in mind, and that's to go drink as many beers as they can before they go into Memorial Stadium.
You can multitask. You can do that and see all that.
And so take the time, take a beer over and watch the drum line. Make sure you're in line when the football players walk by, into the stadium. Walk around and see the other tailgates and say hi to everybody else. So that'll be my goal this year. I want to come and see you more often down there. I know exactly where you're at. And then I've got some other people I want to kind of stroll and say hi, have a beer with them, relax, and then just kind of take it all in, because I'm excited, man. Here we go.
Yeah, you know what? Actually, I'm going to take that advice and do the same thing, because there is the sensory overload in the best way. It's just all five senses are being pummeled with awesomeness on a good tailgate. And even our Michigan family on Kara's side that came down for that game last year, they were impressed, because they have the golf course, they have some paved lots. It's so sprawling though, and here they are in lot 31 thinking, this is like, damn. And cool. I was like, that's right, we can't do this. So I'm excited, and beginning Friday we'll get the first taste of that. So Lon, I appreciate you, man. Thanks for hopping on here. I'll wrap up with all the sponsors and stuff. So have safe travels. Good luck to Andrew at the beginning of his collegiate baseball career. And that's pretty exciting.
I'm excited, but it is a dream. I always said it was a dream come. I always wanted to play college anything and never had the ability, never had the talent. And Lucas had a couple of offers in golf that would have been cool, but he did the right thing by going to Arizona State. And then Andrew doing what he's doing is just it's a dream come true for me. And it's just bonus baseball now, right? And I'm just going to try my best not to be nervous. Yeah, right. I'm not going to go into, I'm not going to be that dad. I'm going to find a seat at the Burlington Bees Stadium, and I'm just going to sit there and beam with pride and watch him on the mound. So I'm excited for it, and I appreciate you having me on. I'll be on more often, I promise.
Yeah. Hey, and it's an open invitation, and whenever you want to. And I know we got about 250 people watching between all the streaming services now. It's like fall sweeps, Lon. I had the big guns to end this thing. You and Jeremy brought in the views. So now, we're primed and ready for football season.
And congrats to your sponsors. That's so cool to have 4 great sponsors like you have for this.
Yeah, very lucky with that. Yeah, they're all great.
Without quality material, and I don't blame them one bit for sponsoring. And I just encourage anybody listening or watching, make sure you go to a Hamilton Walkers and eat and stuff like that. So kudos to them. Hi to Kara.
Yep.
The dog's name is
Rosie.
Rosie.
Yep.
She wouldn't let me pet her last time.
She could be weird. Corgis are just naturally weirdos, man. But god dang, they're cute. They're so freaking cute. But yeah, no, I appreciate it, man. And if I won't see you Friday in the lots, but then Western Michigan night game, full day tailgating, maybe.
I will be there for sure.
Cool, man. Lon, appreciate it, man.
Thanks, Carp.
All right, we'll see you, bud. All right, that is the incomparable Lon Tay joining us here on the 200 level. And yeah, there he is. I mean, that's all we have really for preseason talk and prognostications and predictions. And now it is time at last to play some ball. And that's what we're going to do. So Friday night, Illinois, Western Illinois. I'll be there. Not sure when I'm getting in, because we're coming back down from Chicago at some point that morning. But I'll get in there at some point. You'll see the flag somewhere in lot 31 later that afternoon if you want to come say hi, but I know there'll be other opportunities to do that. And then on Saturday morning at some point, we will do a post-game pod, react to what we saw. How much will we be able to take away from it? I'm not sure, but something. And we'll see some new faces out there and see what some rotations look like. So hopefully just get the win, stay healthy, don't show too much, and enjoy being back at Memorial Stadium to watch the number 12 team in the country. Before we get out of here, quick reminder, best way you can support us is support our sponsors. Hamilton Walkers, steak, seafood, and spirits in downtown Champaign for a pregame meal. Hey, it's a Friday night game. Why not get there like 4 o'clock on Friday? If you don't get all the tailgate fixings, have a great meal, an old-fashioned or two, before you head to Memorial Stadium at Hamilton Walkers in downtown Champaign. Also, State Farm agent Brian Hansen online at brianismyguy.com for life, auto, home, business, renters, you name it. Brian is my guy and can be your guy as well at brianismyguy.com. Dogtown Heating, Air, and Plumbing, your home's best friend. Give them a call at 217-841-4728 and get that furnace check scheduled. Dogtown Heating, Air, and Plumbing. And finally, Owen Builders, LLC. Online at owenbuildersllc.com for your next home improvement project. Check out a gallery of their work and get a free quote online at owenbuildersllc.com. For Champagne Showers Podcast Network, appreciate all you tuning in. It's really cool to have all these different streams going on simultaneously. Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Right now, we got 240 people out there watching. Thank you so much for your support on these preseason podcasts, but now it's time to play ball. Talk to you Saturday, everybody. It is the 200 level.